everyone, my name's Rewin and today is the final Friday before Stranger Things 5 drops. Therefore, I want to get all my final predictions in, episode by episode, with all the promotional content and teasers we have. Now, this video is going to discuss leaks. Episode 1 and the start of episode 2 have been entirely leaked, so I'll give a timestamp closer to the time to skip that, but I will be discussing some aspects in less detail past that. With that intro done, let's go. Episode 1, The Crawl. So, this episode has been entirely leaked, so please skip to this timestamp to avoid extreme spoilers. Now, I will go through the plot, but I will also be discussing what themes are being set up by the events in this episode and things to note for later on. Now, first of course is Will and the Upside Down. We've all seen the first 5 minutes at this point. Well, 4 minutes 20, but never mind. So, the most important things to take from this, in my opinion, is that 1. Will's backpack is in the tree still. It might be useful later, and also it's haunting Will. Secondly, Will has something inside of him still, and it wasn't just that. Somehow it's still linked to him and becoming part of him. So, we then go to the Byers-Wheeler household, and as I predicted, the house is in absolute chaos. It's a lot of people squeezed into a fairly small house. What I think could be important from this is that the two families may be a lot closer now, especially Mike, Will and Holly, since they bike with her to school. I imagine Will and Holly will be very close this season, leading to Will's sanity dropping even further when she's missing. Robin and Steve are currently running the radio station, which I imagine will be helpful later, as not only does it provide communication with all of Hawkins, but it also seems to be useful against the Mind Flayer later on. Dustin is threatened by the jocks for wearing a Hellfire shirt. Dustin's arc this season seems to be finding a balance in who he is versus who he wants to be. He wants to be like Eddie and fight for his name, but at the same time his innocent nature is still there. I think it's something everyone, especially Holly, is going to be fighting for this season, saving some of their childhoods. Something fascinating is that Dr. K, the new scientist villain, has a giant tentacle creature in a tank behind her. I imagine this is what she is trying to use against Vecna, but I also think it's a link to the Mind Flayer and might not help at all. Tentacles across seasons are either related to Vecna or the Mind Flayer, so I imagine this isn't going to go well. That's how narrative works. What's even more fascinating is we have a scene of Joyce and Hopper watching Elle train, and Joyce brings up how she wishes she could wrap Will in bubble wrap. This is so important because this entire episode is beginning to set up the season 2 dynamic that Will is getting babied, and it's yet another thing that's going to fuel his insanity. The Jonathan, Nancy, Steve and Murray scenes don't have a lot of importance to the main plot, at least not yet. They're teasing the love triangle even more, and I'm not sure I'm a big fan of it, to be honest, but we will. But I honestly think this whole thing is just to fuel Jonathan and Nancy's relationship being more stable, since they seem to get engaged this season. Yet again, Steve brings up Will, saying Will hasn't felt anything in a while, so Vecna must be dead. So far, all the scenes Will is in or mentioned, they're really emphasizing just who the protagonist is this time. So, we then have something very interesting. When the four of them are at the picnic table, Will sees something in the sky. The sky starts spinning, and he holds onto the tree to balance himself. Mike puts his hand on Will's shoulder, by la crumbs, and Will says that he never felt like anything like that before, but that he's okay. No one believes him. This is the big issue with babying Will. He's going to be denying things because everyone is so overbearing. Holly gets her cute little D&D figure from Mike. I imagine this will help her be brave later. She also has been talking to the imaginary Mr. Whatsit, which we know is just Vecna. He's trying to appeal to her, which is concerning because that means she's vulnerable. She's also experiencing the same dizziness that Will is, which is very odd to say the least. Lucas, Max and Will are in the hospital. Lucas is playing Running Up That Hill for Max, and meanwhile, Will is trying to tell Lucas that he's never felt anything like this before, and there's hope they can find Vecna. Lucas ignores him though, so Will leaves to get a Coke. Again, Will is getting brushed off even when he is reaching out, so he's going to get increasingly more frustrated. Will then sees Robin and Vicky flirting and then kissing, dropping his coke and running away. Funnily enough, they don't clear this up this episode, which then makes the how do you tell someone likes you back leak a lot more likely. This is the leak Robin and Will have a talk together, and Will asks her this. If it's true, it is the biggest Byler proof, because why on earth would they give Will hope if not that for there to be some? I actually forgot to bring this up later on, but I do think this probably happens in episode 2 or maybe in episode 3. Anyway, Dustin gets beaten up by the jocks at Eddie's grave for pulling a prank on another jock. He's missing in action for the rest of episode 1, which means the first time we probably see him again is when he's hugging Steve and they're reunited. You know, that one scene from the trailer? Now we have the My 11 rooftop scene. Funnily enough, someone who saw the episode and doesn't ship Byler or My 11 says that My 11 seemed off this episode. Essentially, they talk about how Dustin has been acting strangely, then have a discussion about how they'll get happily ever after, like in Dungeons and Dragons, with 3 waterfalls and beautiful scenery. Interestingly enough, we also do later on have the line about how life isn't like Mike's games, almost like a breakup. Will is the one who fully believes in Mike's D&D plans, you're the heart and all that, so already they're setting up a My 11 breakup, but in a healthy way, just going your own way, you know? So now we have the crawl. Essentially, military vans go into the Upside Down to do something to it. Meanwhile, Hopper goes in the van to try and find Vecna's body. The burn is just the gates opening. Now, normally it's Dustin and Steve in the radio tower, but obviously Dustin is missing. Will wants to go since he knows how the antenna works, he's been working on it with Dustin, but the idea gets shut down. Will is visibly mad this time, but he accepts it. He's going to lose his temper soon, I just know it. Jonathan goes instead. Elle wanted to go with Hopper, but Hopper won't allow her, so she's mad. During the mission, the military vans crash and they lose the signal. Now, something is wrong with Will. His visions are starting. He sees the Demogorgons about to take the Wheeler house and passes out. Joyce starts yelling no as she literally slaps Will to wake him up. He does, telling them what's about to happen as he's crying and clinging to Joyce. Leave him alone, I swear. We're now at the Wheeler house. We'll go slightly into leaks for episode 2, but won't expand too much. Episode 2, The Vanishing of Blank. So, everyone knows that this is about Holly going missing. Essentially, from what we know, the gate opens on Holly's ceiling. Ted actually does something for once, whacking the Demogorgon with a golf club, getting launched into Mike's room for it. This is kind of crude to say, but I wonder if we'll get to see the painting here. A lot of stuff happens. Mike, Nancy and Elle are all heading to the house. Nancy and Elle get there first with Karen in a pool of her own blood. But I don't think that she's dead. Holly is missing and Elle jumps through the gate after her before it closes. Okay, and we're out of heavy leak territory. To be honest, I've already predicted some of this, so if you're one of my usual viewers, none of this will be new to you. Hi, by the way, I love you all. So, without going too deep into what I just explained, here is where everyone is. Hopper and Elle are in the Upside Down. Will, Joyce, Robin, Jonathan and Steve are all at the radio station, and Holly is missing. Nancy is alone at the Wheeler house, so I think first of all, they're going to call the ambulance for both Ted and Karen. Ted is dead. I suspect that Karen received cuts, so she's curable, just injured, but Ted received blunt force trauma. Nancy comes into the ambulance with Karen, leading to her hands being covered in blood. Karen is into a coma, and Nancy goes to the bathroom to try and wash the blood off of her hands. I know a lot of people think this scene is for Jonathan or Steve, but I think it's very important not to get distracted. When it comes to theories, you need to look at available evidence, and in this scene, it's the hospital pink soap and the cleanly scrubbed walls. Also, it would be way too big a spoiler for someone big to have died. The tone of this episode is going to be a lot more somber. The stakes are now so much higher because someone is dead. It's no longer the peaceful silence, fun games they've had for a year and a half. Vecna isn't dead and Holly is missing. Small spoiler, I think Will is going to feel so guilty for not saying anything earlier too, even though it's not his fault. Will is like a bottle slowly being filled. he's going to spill soon. Mike is obviously going to be at the hospital, and I imagine Joyce too. The Wheelers-Byers family have been living together for a while, so both families are going to feel this loss. I suspect we'll get a heartfelt conversation between Mike and Will too. Both are high-strung, but Mike is going to feel like he's losing everything, so he'll be clinging to whoever he can save still. Meanwhile, I imagine the rest of the crew are at the radio station. This is where I suspect Dustin and Steve hug. Everyone says Dustin looks emotional here, as does Steve, but I do think it's because they've just reunited under horrific circumstances. In later scenes too, Dustin is wearing a WSQK shirt, meaning he has to have stopped there and changed from his likely bloody shirt. Meanwhile, Hopper and Elle are going to be exploring the Upside Down. They might as well finish the crawl. This is how they end up at the fleshy wall, which I think is the end of the Upside Down. It's not infinite. This is why I think the perception of the Upside Down is also linked with Will. It is only Hawkins. I think it's similar to the Mind Flayer. To bait Henry, it turned itself into a spider to be appealing. To bait Will, it turns itself into Hawkins where he feels safe. To bait Holly, it becomes Wonderland, which is why he appears as Mr. Whatsit. It seems she escapes into her books, which is why they highlight that she reads in the breakfast scene in episode 1. This is the realization they make. Holly might not even be in the Upside Down, nor is Max. They've searched all of it now, and he's not there. The Upside Down is finite, made to, I suspect, bait children, hence why Derek is hunted down later. I think this might be the cliffhanger of the episode. I also think this is the episode where the plan is made for the Turnbow trap. For some reason, they need access to the lab, maybe to try and get Hopper and Elle out, or to try and get a weapon they know is hidden in there, but also works against Elle. We're shown in the teaser that Elle and Hopper are at the Hawkins lab. Meanwhile, Dustin, Jonathan, Steve and Nancy are going there in the Upside Down. I do also wonder if there's some kind of way to communicate in here, hence why the squad are bringing Steve's car in there instead of just walking through. They need a way to get out again. I do think this could be the end of the episode. Hopper and Elle finding the wall, the squad entering the Upside Down, and the Turnbow trap being set. Hi, Future Rewin here. She says, whilst showing an image of the others being there, I think either it's a case of that they are using the Turnbow trap to actually bait them out now instead, which is why everyone is there, and that's why they leave whilst their others are fighting the Turnbow trap. I think that's the most likely situation here. I don't know how, but I think they'll figure out that Derek is the next target. Will know, you dumbass! Otherwise, we might get some of Holly in Wonderland, but I'm not convinced we'll be shown much. It seems that Max has some scenes with Holly, meaning wherever she is, Max is also there, so they'll try and avoid spoiling that. I don't think we're going to see much of it at all until Elle goes into Holly's mind. As for in between these events, since these two episodes are described as blurring together very well, it's going to be mostly the aftermath and the dawn of how dangerous everything is about to be. Will is going to be much more tense now that he knows it can happen at any time, and Joyce is going to be more overprotective. I do think this is where we could get some Viola too. Mike is the only one who treats Will the way he needs to be treated, and Will is the only one who can reassure Mike the way he needs to be. We're coming down for a moment before being launched back into everything. Episode 3, The Turnbow Trap. And onto the Turnbow Trap. Obviously, this is going to be linked to Derek Turnbow and the Mansion/bar. Derek is potentially the next target, whether it's to bait Will again, or just because Vecna needs the children somehow. I do think it is more likely to bait Will out. In fact, they probably know Derek is the next target because Will continues to get these visions. From the images we've seen and leaks, this is going to be some kind of Home Alone situation. Demogorgons are a lot bigger than humans, and our team is down by half, with the others being in the Upside Down. It looks like the squad is yet again divided by half. In the mansion, they're fighting them with fire. I don't think they intended the Demogorgons to get into the barn, since inside is Derek, Robin, Joyce, and most importantly Will, all in one room. Joyce is desperate to keep Will out of harm's way, especially now that his episodes are back with much more intensity. The team can't deny his usefulness now either. If he can somehow get a hold of these visions, they can get a massive advantage. Already, they figured out the next victim through Will. How else would they know the Turnbows are the next victims?
Sorry, past Rewen, I thought we were just being stupid.
I do think they win this fight, however. I think everyone might be injured. But it turns the right way until Will begins having another episode in the barn. Something is different. I suspect he starts feeling the emotions of the Demogorgons, the desires, which is why he attacks Derek. I don't think he actually hurts him, just pins him down until he gets knocked out, or Erica injects him like we see in the teaser to sedate him. The real win here wasn't meant to be taking Derek, it was Will subjecting himself to the Upside Down. For this first volume, Will is just going to be losing over and over again. Vecna wants to completely break down Will to build him back up again, very similar to how the Mind Flayer and Brenner broke him down first. For the other crew, I think they're going to be trying to escape the Upside Down. Now that they've realised Holly isn't easy to find yet, they need to get out of the lab and back to the regular world, especially with the military on Eleven's tail. They need to get out via the main portal, hence why we have the mega military scene in the next episode. The Upside Down is becoming more and more active. I do think they may be trying to find some sort of weapon still, the one owned by the military, but when they find it, we'll see it used on Elle. I also think we'll get a demonstration of how the military plans to stop Vecna. My personal theory is that Dr. K has somehow got a part of the Mind Flayer, like in the Russian plot, and has made a frequency to block the powers, which is why there's a scene of Elle covering her ears. I've had this theory for a little while now, but if you haven't heard of me going on about it before, it's like how in Thunderbolts, Ghost can't use her powers when a high frequency is playing. It even makes Elle's nose bleed. This all leads to our big finale. Vecna is about to launch a massive attack on Hawkins and the stakes are high. Half the crew is still in the Upside Down. Half the crew is injured from the previous fight and not ready, and Elle and Hopper have a very short turnaround to get out of the Upside Down. And don't make it since Will clearly gets yoinked. I think the cliffhanger here could be the squad looking upwards to see the sky opening into Hawkins, aka the scene where Jonathan and Nancy look up and Steve and Dustin look through the binoculars. Episode 4, Sorcerer. And now we head into our giant finale of Volume 1, and holy heck is it about to be a finale! This is going to be split into 4 crews, I think. I'll go from shorter to longer. Crew 1, Robin, Lucas and Vicky. These guys are in the hospital with Max preparing for the final battle when portals open throughout all of Hawkins, including at the hospital. The Demogorgon attack leads to the group splitting up, Lucas trying to cause a distraction by running into the tunnels to give Max and the girls a chance. Remember, he was big on sports at one point, so is likely the fastest runner, which is why he volunteers. He's about to die, and I heavily suspect that he's cornered until somehow Will attaches himself to the Demogorgon. Vecna wants to make Will watch his friend die, yet somehow his empathy is affecting it. Will is starting to take control of his powers, which, unfortunately, I suspect is exactly what Vecna wanted. Crew 2, Jonathan, Nancy, Steve and Dustin need to find a portal and get to the right side up, but they're all closed, except for this weird pillar from the new teaser. This means the original gates are completely overwhelmed. They get through, knowing what's about to happen, breaking through back to their family to help in the fight. Crew 3. Elle and Hopper are trying to get away from the library via the main portal, but are trapped, not only by the giant fight, but the fact that the military is there, completely disabling Elle using the high-pitched weapon. They're going to arrive to the fight just too late, with the military all dead, with their friends unconscious on the floor, and Will either with Vecna or completely unconscious. Crew 4. The kids, Will, Joyce, Jonathan and Mike. They're at the military base, likely trying to aid the escape of Elle or get the kids to a safer place since Vecna is after them and accidentally leading them to the middle of the drama. Will is unconscious again in the military scene. I have a sneaky suspicion this is because Will somehow gets control of the Demogorgons, gaining powers, which is what Vecna needed. Will might even be trying still to take control of them here and help, which is why our main crew are all completely unharmed. Will is so sick of being babied, and now that he has a chance to defend himself and his friends, he's going to be much too obsessed with that to consider his own health. This is why he's writhing in this scene, exhausted but can't do anything. It leaves him an easy target once everyone else has been defeated and beaten down for Vecna to take. Will has given in to the Upside Down. He's now powerful and ready, which is exactly what Vecna wanted, but maybe what Vecna didn't need. His enemy. Okay, I'll be so for real. I forgot this image existed, but also I realized as well you do actually see Nancy, Jonathan and Steve fighting the military, so I do think it's going to be a lot more complicated than I thought. It's going to be something to do with the gate and knowing Vecna is coming, so they're going to have to find some way to either warn everyone, get everyone out, I don't know, but yeah, it looks like there is one final plan, which actually helps Byler because I really do expect the Mike and Eleven breakup to be end of season 4, volume 1. Although also Hopper and Elle are missing from this, so it could be them that are still stuck in the Upside Down and that's why they're fighting the military, but I don't know. We'll see. And that's the end of my predictions for volume 1. Just so you guys know, I'll be doing weekly talkbacks focused on one episode a week to help the wait between volumes, so make sure you tune in. Anyways, catch you all later, and remember, the lion does not concern itself with Byler Doubt.